Welcome to Books and Brews Light number 56. Today we have our guest B.G. Howard. I think you're coming to us from somewhere on the East Coast. Is it Florida or Georgia?
Yes, ma'am. It's Jacksonville, Florida.
That's right. That's right. But you started your life in Georgia, right?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. Okay. So welcome. It's kind of nice to have someone in the same time zone. I've been working with a lot of people in far-flung time zones, and
wow.
tomorrow night we'll actually be talking with someone from Bangkok. So that, especially with daylight savings time kicking in, we had a little bit of back and forth, like, okay, I know what time it is for me. What time is it for you? But I think we have it figured out. It will be 12 hours apart. So late night for us, early morning for him, more or less. So welcome to the program. And since it is Books and Brews, I think you said you like water best, right?
Yes.
That's what I have. It's too early in the day for anything else. So give us a little background about yourself.
Oof. Okay. As you stated, I'm originally from Georgia, and I now call home Jacksonville, Florida. Close enough that I can get home if I need to, but far enough away that I don't have to be bothered. I am a retired former business owner. I was self-employed for several years, and on one fateful day, I made the comment about the fact that, Lord, I want to retire early. And he said, okay. So he pushed the truck out in front of me.
Way of looking at it.
Well, I mean, I did pray and say, Lord, I want to retire. So sometimes you ask for things and you really don't know in what way it's going to come.
Yes.
So I spent 7 months. I took a nap for 7 months. I was in a coma for 7 months. Didn't know because I was asleep, but when I woke up, I was braces and bandages, and I was I broke both my ankles, both my shins, both my knees, both my femurs, my pelvis in 3 places, both my upper arms, both my elbows, both my forearms, and both my wrists.
Wow.
And I had a massive concussion that rocked me to sleep for 7 months. So
you're very lucky to be alive.
No, ma'am. I don't do luck. I'm blessed.
Yeah. Okay. That's also a very good way of looking at it. I actually had this discussion briefly with my husband. So I, of all people, shouldn't have used that word. We live on a farm. And so in the space of 6 weeks, I was knocked flat on my back by a ram, trampled. He ran straight over my body from feet to head, right over my face and everything. I was nearly run over by a UTV, and had that happened, let's just say I pity the people who would have had to clean up the mess. It would have been really ugly. And somehow I landed in the brush on the side of the UTV. I don't remember anything except it rolling down the hill at me, and then I was on my back beside it. And then the third thing was I got bitten by a dog. I got between 2 very large dogs who were fighting. And I realized later it could have been way worse. That tooth, it landed in my arm here. It could have landed in my face and my neck. I mean, they were out to kill each other. Wow. And my husband said, "You are very unlucky these days." And that was my answer. No, I'm incredibly blessed. God is watching over me. And so I appreciate the difference. So after you woke up, then long recovery after all of that?
Oh, wow. Specifically, 8.5 years of physical therapy and rehab.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
I literally had to learn to walk all over again, talk. I had a what do they call that thing? You have a tracheotomy. I had it for a matter of fact a lot longer than they were supposed to leave it in there, but praise God they took it out. They fed me through a tube in my stomach. I think
Mhm.
when I had the accident, I weighed around 220 pounds.
Mhm.
By the time I got out of the hospital, I was head and legs. I weighed less than 100 pounds.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's drastic.
that's not exactly the euphemism I'd use for it, but yeah, um, it it was has been and honestly continues to be. My I talk a lot better. I write a lot better than I talk. But
Mhm.
my doctors at the point they pretty much said we've done all that we can do for you.
Mhm.
They told me that I would be in a quote unquote perpetual state of rehabilitation for the rest of my
Okay.
life.
Are you in chronic pain from it, or
Um,
is it over?
in a word, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
I
that.
I have. They later determined I have arthritis everywhere I had a broken bone.
Okay. But you also said in your writing on your page that this is what led you to writing.
Oh yes, because
Because I was the accident 2001. Do I have
yes,
that
ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And fast forward eight, 9 years. In 2000, no, it was actually longer. Oh no, it was okay. In 2006, I was undergoing physical therapy, and I could not. It was strange. I could not get outside of my head,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense. And so one day I was sitting at the computer because with me not being able to do anything physically, I signed up, registered for an internet access, and so I would my day consisted of surfing the internet. And
Hmm.
one day I was sitting at the computer and this idea popped into my head, and I was like, "What the what?" And so it wouldn't go away. So two and a half weeks later, I opened the Word document and literally started typing. And
And this was the book that you'll be reading from today.
yes, ma'am. It actually,
Okay.
I had no idea. I'd never written a book. I never had
Hmm.
a desire to write a book. And when I started writing, it kind of, for lack of a better term, relieved the pressure inside.
Hmm.
So I considered it more therapeutic than anything else.
You know, I've always said that about my own writing. Once my writers group put up plaques at the art center in our town on the question of why do you write, and my answer was because all these people are in my head and they've got to get out.
Yes,
And my head is like bursting with these people
that's
living there. They need to go live.
it's
Like,
true. It's literally true.
yeah,
You've got all these voices inside your head, and you can't do anything with it. But
right.
you have to. I can speak for myself. I had to have a way to. I term it get out of my own head. And
Hmm.
so I literally just opened the Word document, had no direction, no idea what was going. I didn't even know it was gonna result in it being a novel or a manuscript. And
Hmm.
so I just continued to write. And between my doctor's appointments, my therapy, and all the things that were going on medically,
Hmm.
I just had to find another outlet. And so
So, how long after the accident did you start to write the book?
I think, well, actually, I started writing in the summer of 2006.
Okay.
So that would have been
And it was
roughly
just,
5 years.
or no, not just. See, I'm losing track of time. It's 2025, but it was published 2 years ago, right?
The first version. Okay, let me back up because
Okay.
it was not. I started writing in 2006. I finished the first manuscript in 2009,
Okay.
and I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I had no intentions of writing a novel. So
Mm-hmm.
I filed it away on the computer. And fast forward 2012-ish, 12, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
12. I would have to remember this because she'd be upset. But I met my wife. Well, we weren't married when we met, but we eventually, she for some reason signed on to a life with me. But but we were at the house, got a phone call, jumped on emergency, it was an emergency, jumped on a plane, flew to Massachusetts. We expected to be there for 2 weeks. We ended up there for 2 months.
Okay.
And so one day she gets bored and she's like, "Didn't you tell me that you wrote a book?" I'm like, I don't know, because I have problems with my memory.
Okay.
Not as bad now as it was then, but back then you talk to me on Tuesday and see me on Thursday, I couldn't tell you who you were.
Mm-hmm.
That's a condition called static encephalopathy.
I believe that I talked to a guest a long time ago. Philip, I can't remember if Philip is his first or last name, but his book, our kind of tagline was "He died and lived to tell the tale." He
Wow.
was hit by a bus while he was walking, and I know he also struggled with some memory issues.
Mm.
But he had technically died, and they were able to bring him back. So it was an interesting story, and that's what his book was about. But go on.
Well, in my case, I flatlined 3 times, and
Mm.
they were able to bring me back. And honestly, for a while, I was mad at God
Mm-hmm.
because I did live. But
So I have to ask you, as I did him, did you have a near-death experience of seeing heaven or Jesus?
no, ma'am, I did not. And I'm afraid that the life that I was living at that time, it probably would not have been Jesus. I'm
Oh
sorry.
no.
I'm sorry
But
to say, it definitely would not have been Jesus.
isn't that a great second chance, though?
Oh yes, ma'am. Yes, because one of my prayers at this stage of my life, I'm just thankful that the Lord gave me. My late mother. I told her, I said, "Mom," she said, "You flatlined 3 times," and I said, "Yes, I've been made aware." And I told her, I'm a jokester. I everything has to be funny, or I suffer anyway. I suffer depression and things like that, so I don't do anything to compound the issue. But I told her, I said, the first time I flatlined, Jesus said, "No, he can come up here." The second time, the enemy said, the devil said, "No, he can't come down here. He might put out my fire." And so the third time they said, "Well, we'll just leave him up there and let him see if he'll improve it." So
That's good.
that's why I'm still here. I tell my wife it was to torment her. But
Well, it sounds like she's still around, so she can't be too tormented.
I figured out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
She gets to park up front everywhere we go,
Uh-huh.
and she gets to go first at the airport.
That's funny. I often tease, well, my husband and I both joke that he got me to marry him. He told someone the other day because he promised he would do my taxes and I would never have to do taxes again. Because I think
That's a good one.
we met online in late March, and
Wow.
I think every single letter I sent to him was like, I really, really hate doing taxes. And then the other joke is he has a good job, he has a good income, and so he kept buying me so many clothes. And my house didn't have room for all these clothes. So the joke was, you're trying to force me to marry you so you can give me a walk-in closet, aren't you?
Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and the irony is the house we moved to in Tennessee really doesn't have much closet space. And now it's like, well, you're going to have to build an addition to hold all these clothes you keep buying me. So
That must be a universal thing, because I told my wife we're gonna have to buy. As a matter of fact, it's up for sale now. But I told her we're gonna have to buy the house next door for a closet.
Mhm. Yeah, Yeah, we just put in a cabin that we'd like to use as an Airbnb, and we've kind of joked maybe it just needs to be my closet. Clothes there. So what kind of a business did you own?
Did the first I started from a spare bedroom in my house
Mhm.
with a borrowed computer and a $39 fax machine. It was the name of the company was Communication Technologies Unlimited, CTU for sure. But we installed telephony and data networks throughout the United States and some parts of Canada and Mexico.
Wow. How
Uh,
how do you know how to do a thing like that?
well, I mean, I was working at another company, and I provided a lot of. Honestly, I think I've been, I think I've only helped install, assisted in the installation of two systems.
Okay.
But because I provided technical support on the systems, I had to learn, in theory, I had to
Mhm.
learn the systematic functions. So I knew I had the knowledge of how they operated, but I was never consistently involved with the actual installation and programming. I could program them backwards and forwards, but I just,
Mhm.
I could tell you, well, you program the KSU, but I couldn't tell you what a KSU looked like.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
it was.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you do a lot of writing in other genres. You write your blog pieces, you write the short little thoughts to ponder. I think did you briefly write for a newspaper?
I still do.
Oh, you still do. Okay.
I wrote for. I used to actually work at back home in Georgia. Um,
Hmm.
the local newspaper. I worked for them for a number of years prior to moving away, and then when after I had the accident, I think it was it was sometime after the accident, but in 2015, I believe, I think like around September 2015, the now manager owner of the paper, he remembers when I used to work there. He's a little younger than me, but he remembers when I used to work there shortly after I graduated high school, which was
Hmm.
longer ago than I care to recall. Um, Maybe it's a good thing I lost my memory. But anyway, um, he remembered, me being there, and something was going on. I think that was during the time. I think my mother was ill, had a couple of surgeries. Then my father got in. During that time, it's like it's kind of hard to do anything constructive when
Hmm.
when life around you is so destructive. And so
Hmm.
just to keep just to keep in the habit of writing, I figured, I've got, it's like exercising. You got to keep it up or you lose.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so I'd actually contacted him one day and asked him um, if it would be okay if I can resume writing my opinion column. And
Hmm.
he said sure. And I said, but you don't want to interview me, like find out. He goes, I don't need to know. He said, I don't need to
Hmm.
interview you. I already know you can write. And
Hmm.
he reminded me, was it him? Anyway, somebody reminded me that previously when I used to actually work at the newspaper, I had won one state award and one national award because I wrote I was a sports columnist at that time. So I'm an award winning now. An award
You
winning.
are.
Well, yes, ma'am, I am. But I didn't, like, he informed me I was an award winning columnist. And then
Hmm.
I started to say I published the first novel in 2020, and then I realized, I don't know what I'm doing. So I went back to research how to write a novel, and I revised the name of the name of the first novel, Family Ties Thicker Than Blood. But then 2 years later I added some meat to the bones, if you will, and
Okay.
um, I rewrote the revised edition Family Ties Thicker Than Blood. And that one netted me a Best Fiction Award from the Distinguished Authors Guild in 2023. And then
Congratulations.
well, thank you. And in 2024, I launched the Family Ties 2 Blood Covenant. And that one won me another Best Fiction Award from the Distinguished Authors Guild in
That's great.
2024. So
that's great. So tell us about the book itself.
Well, ironically, I used to live in New York, and that day this idea came to me. I started writing, and it concerns the life, the experiences of a young man. His name is Willie. He moves from South Georgia, coincidentally, and he's in New York, an aspiring / actor, model, entertainer, and he inadvertently saves the life of Oswald Jenkins. Oswald Jenkins turned out to be a key figure of a notorious crime family. But you can't be a thug named Oswald, so his name is Oz.
I had a great uncle named Oswald.
but he Oz, as a more or less a favor or whatever, he kind of takes him under his wing. And Willie, short, he's a very astute gentleman and rather intelligent in most cases. But he soon learns the tricks of the trade, and Oz moves him into the second position, which causes a problem with the previous second in command, a gentleman by the name of Anthony, or Amp, as he's known on the streets. So Amp has natural beef with Willie because he displaced him. And I can't tell you the story, but essentially Amp teams up with another former protege of Oz's by the name of Jerome, and they had to plan to make things happen.
So it's really the story of someone who very inadvertently gets involved in this life of crime.
Yes.
Okay. And what drew you to crime, or is this just, as you said, it just popped into your head?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I lost my memory. Coincidentally, I did live in New York, in Harlem. And I've had people ask me, "Are you sure you lost your memory?" And, yeah, because there were some things that transpired when I was living in New York. Again, I was living a different life. And some or all of the experiences in that book attributed to Willie. Okay, where I stand, the events may or may not be true.
Okay.
Depending upon who you ask, because I can't remember.
That's interesting. So are some people telling you that you did some of these things and some are saying you didn't?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Many people who thought they knew me didn't know. I can't say, I can't tell you, I don't know. But I have a god sister who, as far as I know, still lives in New York. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
Well, no, the fact is, every work of fiction starts with, this is all imaginary, no relation to any real person or any real event. Every time I read that, I'm like, I think every work of fiction has some relation. And I can tell you that there's one character in my book. I actually kind of like her, but man, she's annoying. And she talks endlessly, and she's always sighing, and she's always, life is so rough and life is so hard. And then she sighs some more, and then she keeps talking. She's based on someone I know.
Oh, wow.
And I would say it wasn't even intentional. And I think a lot of times for authors, it isn't necessarily intentional. It's just these are people we know, there are only so many types of people in this world, and they're all this mix of a certain number of traits.
Exactly.
Of course, they're going to come out in our writing, as are events in our lives, even if they're fictionalized. So, do you have a reading ready to go?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I do. Again, I figured probably the best place to start is at the beginning.
Mhm.
So, if you don't mind, I'll go with the first couple. This is the first couple paragraphs. Of,
Okay, yeah.
of
Yeah,
the,
you can read for a few minutes if you like. And I think this would be what I read online in the sample, right?
yes, ma'am.
Okay,
It should
so
be like the first chapter online.
yeah. So just to anyone who really doesn't like swearing, these are thugs, they're mafias. So you've been warned, but it's in character with who they are. So go ahead.
I'll do my best to clean it up as much as possible.
Okay.
I tell people it's a little bit profane, but it's not vulgar.
hmm I think that's a fair description.
The first chapter is it's called setting the tone. And pardon me up front because I do have that problem. So I'll try to minimum. Yeah, setting the tone. It was a hot, balmy summer day in Harlem as we made our way across Amsterdam on the way to Charlie's place at the corner of 128th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. I remember being in the passenger seat of the Navigator, wishing I was someplace else. My preference was to still be enjoying the warm flesh blanket I had to leave before 7 this morning. Any place would be better than riding shotgun on a debt. Riding shotgun to collect on a debt Charlie had allowed to fall delinquent. Ozzy, or Oz, as he was known and recognized on the territory, was a pretty low-key, easygoing fella. But let there be a hold up with his cash flow, and he had no problem conducting late-night swimming lessons in the Hudson River. Charlie, a two-bit make-believe hustler from the Midwest, had come across a pool hall in a rather shady business deal a few years back. The only thing known to be true, the original owner had suspiciously suspiciously left town, never to be heard from again. But Charlie's place, commonly known as the Whirling Hole, served as a legitimate front for anything outside the law. A person could view a menu containing everything from pre-used autos to virtually anything else they wanted on the menu. His hands were shoved into whatever. His hands were shoved into whatever crooked deal he thought would turn the dollar. Amp announced as the gator came to an abrupt stop in front of a huge flashing neon sign. The time has arrived. Time to get your time to get your time to get your ass up and earn your keep. I tried to sound as commanding as possible. You lead, I'll cover the door. Amp's voice blared like a bullhorn as he tugged the oversized button-down shirt to conceal the pump shotgun from passengers in front of Charlie's. You punk motherfather! Better get your ass in the current. This crap about to get real. About to get real. One more time, I snapped. I already told you about that mama stuff. You never met my mom. It'd be wiser than you to keep her name out your effing mouth. What the hell are you talking? What the hell are you talking? He questioned. I ain't said nothing about your mama. Making my way through the door of the pool hall, I chastised him. I might be a lot of things, fool, I said, but an MF and an SOB, I am not. That's where I draw the damn line. It was no secret. Amp and I didn't care too much for each other. He took pride in being the biggest ass in the shit house and sing and resented the fact that I found favor in the sight of Oz, his mentor. More annoying for him was the realization that he had chosen the streets as a way of life, and aspired to someday take Oz's spot. I, on the other hand, wound up in the game purely by accident, and wanted nothing more than to escape the hellhole where I had learned to thrive. Not from ambition to do so, but from a simple need to survive. I was shocked back to reality by the screams of a woman watching action at the corner pool table when she caught a glimpse of Amp's shotgun. Damn, that bastard got a big ass barrel up in his joint. An older fellow, as he hobbled past carrying his walking stick so as to not have it slow him down. Let me out of this bitch, or somebody cut loose up in here. With people screaming and running in every direction, trying to take cover, Amp's deep bass sounded over the jazz on the old jukebox. Where in the hell is that punk, Charles? If this song ends before I get an answer, I'm gonna start playing my own music up in this piece. I had made it through the crowded pool hall a little easier than Amp. My 9mm Smith & Wesson handgun were my 9mm Smith & Wesson handguns were a little less conspicuous and afforded me more maneuverability. Upon scratching through the stained glass door in the back office, I found Charlie trying to unlock the bars covering the window that opened to the alley out back. It had always puzzled me as to how Charlie could be a respected, notorious gangster, but known for being afraid of guns. With all his armor caught off guard in the front of the pool hall, he was a sitting duck. I mean, who'd ever expect anyone to have balls enough to try Charlie at his house? He stammered. I was just about to. Oh, save me the song and dance, Charlie. I interrupted. I guess you trying to get to the checkbook. You trying to get the checkbook from your truck out back. And if you expect me to swallow that power, what the hell? Charlie had reached into the drawer of his desk and pulled out a stun gun. I almost fell over laughing. You might want to invest in some real firepower, pussycat. If you like, I can turn you on to old dude down by the docks. I said, directing the taser at me. Directing the taser toward me. You won't think it's so funny when I pop your ass with these 5,000 amperes. Charlie said. I walked a little closer, demonstrating my lack of intimidation at the sight of his weapon of choice. Dumbass. At that point, I was cracking up. They're called volts, and you gotta get a little too close. You gotta get way too close to use that little bit shit. I was overly theatrical. Now let's save all the drama. You know damn well who I work for, which means you know exactly why I'm in your shit. We can do this like men, or I can treat you like the whore you turned out to be, and straight pimp slap your ass. But either way, you're gonna unask Oz's count. I'm gonna stop right there because it gets to be a little bit more.
Okay. Okay. You know, I had asked you shortly before we started if it was okay to ask you this. I think it's a really interesting question. Your blog posts make it pretty clear you're a man of faith. How is it to be living one life and writing about these murderers and drug dealers and thugs and gangsters?
Well, to be very honest, that's one of the reasons why it took me so long to publish.
Mhm.
I finished the first version of the manuscript in 2006,
Mhm.
but I held off because at that time I was undergoing physical, psychological, emotional challenges,
Mhm.
and that led me to pursue a better relationship with the Creator, God. And I said, you know what? I like the book. It's a good novel, but I can't put this out there.
Mhm.
And we have a spiritual mother that I met through my wife Sandra. Um, she came up. She. We were in conversation, and she asked me. She goes, "What's going on with the book?" And I said, I her name is Ma Karen, or we
Mhm.
call her Ma Karen. But I said I can't do it. She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "The book is not it." The way I put it, I said, "It ain't not no Bible read." And
Mhm.
she said, "Well, the Lord knows that people have sex. The Lord knows that people use profanity. Your book is about real life."
Yep, that's
And
true.
she said, "You know, the Lord knows that people live their lives." So she was the one who was very instrumental in convincing me. Now I do have to say this: at the point that I, prayed about it, and
Mhm.
I said, "Okay, but I can't publish it as it is."
Mhm.
In all honesty, I did 12 rewrites
Okay.
to get it from a triple X to an R.
Okay. And I think that's a good point that it's about real life. And I've said before on this program, I went with self-publishing. Well, we set up our own publishing house for the writers group I was in because I felt that my book talked too much about God for your average secular publisher,
Mm.
but the character was not exactly leading a good life. Sean is, and I figured a Christian publisher isn't going to want that.
That's
But it's real life. He's sleeping around, he's cheating on his girlfriend, he's drinking, he's gambling. Um, and that's how he starts out. Of course, by the end of my book, it does turn into a story of redemption. So to me, that works. There's nothing to redeem from if you're perfect to begin with. And
exactly.
a book where everybody is just being nice to each other, it kind of lacks.
I think I read that one called Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, that's no, there was Nellie Olson. She was pretty awful. Maybe not as awful as Willie right now at this moment. Is there a bit of a redemption arc in yours because he wants to be living a different life? He didn't aspire to this.
Well, that's interesting because like I said, when I wrote the novel, I didn't know what I was doing.
Mhm.
The first publishing house I approached, the editor, or one of the editors, no, anyway, one of the principals at the publishing
Mhm.
house said to me, and then when they read the they read the they read they read they read he read the manuscript, or they read the manuscript. His first words to me, "Wow." Not that it's a good novel or a good manuscript.
Uh-huh.
Not that. His first words were, "Wow, that's a
That's
long
kind of like
that's a
bless
long
your heart,
manuscript."
huh?
Yeah, that's a long manuscript. And
Mhm.
we spoke probably 5 or 6 times, and he's like, you're gonna have to edit out probably 80% of this.
Wow.
That would change the whole book. And
Mhm.
so one day we're actually on the phone, and I was again going through doing the rewrite, and it slapped me upside the head. It was at the end of the book had gone from 21 chapters. I edited, added some meat to the bones. It turned out to be 40 chapters, which is
That's
almost
a lot
perfect.
of meat. Hmm.
It was almost perfect. But now some of that because I busted up the chapters, and the chapters, the average length of the chapters at that time was like 36 pages.
Okay,
So I was
that's a
like,
long chapter.
yeah, and that's what I determined. So a lot of the chapters I had to go back and break up, and so where one chapter became 2 chapters, that's how the book got to 40 chapters. But
Okay.
at the point he was telling me it was too long, now I got to go back and figure out what I'm going to do. How am I going to split this up? So I was reading the 21st chapter in the original manuscript. At the end of the 21st chapter, I was like, bam, that's it. If I break it right there, it's a complete book.
Hmm.
It's not a complete story. So what I then did is I wrote a segue chapter at the beginning of the second novel.
Hmm.
The first chapter is a segue into the second book. So if you read the first novel and never read the second, it's still a good book. If you
Right.
read the second and never read the first, it's still a good book.
Okay.
So you've got the two are tied together by the first chapter of the second novel, which is like I said, a segue. It reviews essentially it reviews the most significant portions of the first novel.
Okay.
So
You still get the story.
yes, ma'am.
So after all of your experiences, what is your best advice to writers on writing and on marketing?
Well, my writing is not a problem. As a matter of fact, I just completed this author writing program.
Oh, wow.
It's called. What I did was like I said, when this idea came to me, I opened the Word document and I just started typing. So, ergo, the fact that my the name of the program is called Just Write. I opened the Word document and just started writing. Because when I went back to read how to write a novel, these are all people who are accomplished authors, and they're telling you how. The first thing I read, when you start out with the end in mind.
Yes.
You outline all your excuse me. You outline the storyline. You define all the characters, their characteristics.
Hmm.
Like, but you gotta have the book written before you start writing.
Right.
And people I've been to speaking engagements and things like that, and people ask me, "How did you write this book?" And I tell them, I didn't write the book. The character wrote the book.
Yep.
I just sat back and took notes.
That's very much how I felt. And, I did not really start with the end in mind. In fact, I thought I was writing a standalone book, and it turned into, because of a reader's comment, it turned into 5 that make a complete story. And almost up until I wrote the last page, I wasn't sure how it was going to end. And I think that's part of what gives a lot of life to the people living in these pages, when you let them write the story instead of trying to plan it all.
Exactly. And the 2 novels, well, the 3, I only count 2 because the first one I just dismissed. Because the second one is a revision of the first, and then comes so it's Family Ties is the original one, revised edition Family Ties Thicker Than Blood, and then Family Ties 2 Blood Covenant. But I ended Family Ties 2 Blood Covenant in such a manner that if I so choose, I can go back and continue the story. But to be very honest with you, I do not like sequels. I mean, people ask me, "So you're gonna write another one?" And I'm like, "Listen, after Friday the 13th, 12. It's like how many, Fast and the Furious? How many? 7 or 8? How many?
Right.
How many ways can you
Rock.
drive that fast?
Yeah.
How many ways can you kill somebody? And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's popular, but I don't. I'm not. I used to be a fashion model, but I don't do fashion.
Uh-huh.
My jeans are Levi's until they fall apart, and then they become work
Uh-huh.
pants. But
You know, I think a sequel has to be done right. My husband and I are currently watching a show called Shooter, and we really like it. But I'm very quickly getting to the point where how many times is his family going to be kidnapped? Um, and I read now there's a very popular, very famous author. I'm not going to name the name because it's not to criticize her. Her books are so popular that she just kept writing more and more of them. At first, I really liked them, but as I got farther into them, I'm like, well, this isn't working because this this person or this couple just keeps getting hammered by this awful thing and that awful thing. And I realized there's no story arc. She's writing the novels because people are buying them and want more. But there needed to be a story arc, and preferably a story arc to the whole series.
Right.
And so for me, people wanted to read more of my books. They want to know more about Sean and Neil. But I said, at this point, this story is done. When I have another story that involves Sean and Neil, I'll write it. But I'm not going to just write stories where I just throw stuff at them.
Right.
Just to have a story, because that feels empty. And at a certain point, the reader goes, how many things can this one person possibly endure?
Exactly.
For no apparent reason. Where's the story going? So I think that's really important. And I think it's a good decision for an author to know when is it time to write a sequel and when isn't it.
Right. I mean, and the thing is, I have the one thing that I do not like, and this is just me personally, one thing I do not like is when you, as you explained, that you keep the story going, but then at some point you have to say, well, where is it going? And like I said, I have outlined another installment of the Family Ties series, but it will not be the same as the first two installments. It'll take it's the same direction, but with a slightly different twist. And so the experiences will not continue or repeat, and it will be like I tell people, wouldn't it be okay instead of Friday the 13th 12? Can't you do like a maybe Friday the 13th?
Yep.
Some of the just why not just name it something else? Fast and the Furious 10. Why not just take those same characters and give it another name?
Yeah, that too.
But the thing is, people get attached to the brand,
Yes.
and that's what sells. But see, I
Yep.
don't write for income.
For
We're okay. I'm not saying like I'm not Bill Gates' second cousin, but we're okay.
yeah.
And I write because
I'm sorry. I thought when I invited you on that I was going to be talking to someone as rich as Bill Gates. Well, we'll just have to end this interview now.
maybe he'll
That would limit me to what, like 25 people in this world I could interview.
Well, maybe he'll have pity and include me in his will or something like that. But
that would be nice. I did hear he's not leaving his money to his kids.
Yeah, I heard that. I read that too. But I mean,
so
people ask me why I write, and I tell them because I have to.
I
mean, literally, my hard drive went out in my computer. I took it. There's a place here in town. It's called GTI. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the initials stand for. But it's Grunsky something. Anyway, but the owner's name is Randy, and I called him, and he said, bring it here." So I took it, dropped it off, came back home. About 3 hours later, I called him. It was Randy. "What time do you close?" He said, "Oh, in about half an hour." I said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes." He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I need a computer." He said, "Well, yours not finished." I said, "I need a computer." He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Listen, I can't think. I can't function.
Yep.
I have to write." And honestly, when I can't write, I get physically ill. My stomach hurts. I can't sleep.
I can understand that. I think I would definitely feel the same way if I had to go a long stretch without writing. And I've often said, writing has prevented me needing a therapist. I've probably saved tens of thousands of dollars because writing does have a very healing effect. But I felt that way when I went to Scotland for 2 weeks. The only time I didn't travel with an instrument because I'm a musician. And after 2 weeks of not being able to play music, I felt like I was getting the shakes or something. I felt like I was having literal physical withdrawals. It was not.
That's the way I describe it, withdrawals.
Yep.
I honestly, like I said, I get physically ill. I'm nauseous. I can't sleep. And, that's happened twice. No, three times. And I told Randy, anytime I have to leave my computer with you for more than 2 hours, I need something. And so he has this he, he has this one laptop he's got put aside, and he's like, "That's Billy's spare."
I was about to say that you need to just have a second laptop so that you can always be writing and, Google Drive or whatever. So if you're not writing a sequel to this, do you have another book in the works or what's next for you?
Yes, ma'am. I have actually another manuscript. It's about probably 90% complete. And I actually held off on releasing it this year or finishing it this year because I was working on it took me 18 months to develop this author writing program.
Okay.
So the Just Right program took over my life for the last 18 months. And I'm so eager to get back to writing. I worked with a marketing coach, and he was the one who convinced me because I'm nobody famous. I'm not like J.K. Rollins or any of the top tier authors.
Right.
Yes. But so it's difficult, honestly, and being self-published. I got a whole lot of money invested in this process. My savings, my wife's savings, our investment account. I got a whole lot invested in this, but that's the reason I went the route of self-publication because I didn't feel like who's gonna want to know my story, and it's not my story, but it's a parallel. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, traditional publication is very difficult these days, and it probably always has been, but I think it's gotten much harder to break into unless you really know someone. So, where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on all the major outlets. I'm Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, all the .coms. And Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads. I think I've done better on Goodreads actually than I have on Amazon.
That's unusual.
And,
they usually are a full kind of star rating below Amazon. You have a website.
Yes, ma'am. It is author, 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 bghoward.com.
Okay. And are you on any of the social medias?
Oh, yes. Every morning, just to stay relevant, every morning I post Facebook, LinkedIn, uh, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter.
Okay.
Every morning,
That's
I post what I call them the original philosophical quotes. I call them my points to ponder.
mhm.
I post those every morning, and then usually in the evening on those same platforms, I post something relative to. Usually, it would be something relative to the novel. Then, when I finish the author writing program, it's something related to that. And I'm right now participating in this CEO masterclass
Mhm.
by Ms. Rachel Gary.
Oh,
And
I know her. She's been on this program.
yeah, she's a
Yeah,
wonderful person. She's a wonderful person.
I enjoyed talking to her.
She's convincing me to. I don't like being out front.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, when I published the first version of the novel, it did not have my photo on the back.
Okay.
In fact, this is the revised edition. It has no picture of me on the back.
Okay.
And so people said, "Well, I thought you wanted to be a a famous novel." I said, "Well,
Mhm.
fame doesn't come. If fame doesn't come, I'm still gonna write." But what I did, briefly, and I'm not anti anybody. I'm not
Mhm.
anti anybody, but what I did, my pre publication research. I went to Barnes and Noble. I went to Target. I went to Walmart. I went to some independent bookstores,
Mhm.
and I would just sit there for hours and watch the people. Usually, there's a cultural section
Mhm.
or an ethical section, ethnic section, and I would watch the people. They would go into the department. Obviously, the covers kept your attention. So they
Mhm.
would look at the cover. They walk over. They look at the cover. And the first thing they do is they flip it over. 9.9 times out of 10, if the photo on the back was the first picture of an African American or cultural person,
Mhm.
they would put the book back and walk away.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. I
I'm shocked.
never thought about that before, but when I was doing the research, that was the case.
Mhm.
And so I said, you know what? I want to be a good author because of the writing, not because of my
Mhm.
picture on that.
Yep.
And I had I used to be a business owner. I met this guy. He was a business owner, and he asked me, he goes, when is the book going to be done? I said, it's done now. He said, can I buy a copy? I said, nope. He said, what? I said, no, you can't. He said, but I
Mhm.
want to support you. I said, that's the reason why you can't buy a copy.
Mhm.
I said, what I'll do, I'll give you a copy and let you read it. If it's good, you like it, you pay me for it. If it's not,
Okay.
then give it back.
Mhm.
And he read the novel, and this was the first edition. He read it and he goes, I can't wait for the sequel.
That's great.
So that's how I gauged um,
Mhm.
the followers, and I just because I sincerely love writing.
Mhm.
I write poetry. I write the weekly column for the newspaper. I write short stories. I write philosophy. I just like to write.
Yep. And I highly recommend that people do visit your site and read some of that. And so people can find me at booksandbrews.net. They can find my books, which are mostly set in medieval Scotland and modern Scotland, at laurabosica.com. You can find our sponsor at gabrielshornpress.com. We have lots of great authors there. And in fact, we're about to publish another novel. Actually, we just did. We just did publish another novel by Rebecca May Hope, and this one is on her mother's and sister's fight or their struggles with schizophrenia. So it's a memoir, well worth reading. And you can find all the wonderful animals we have here, including the ram who trampled me, at glenfarms.wordpress.com. That ram is actually in the freezer now.
Wow.
But you can see pictures of what he looked like. He was ram. So our next interview coming up is Kathleen Adele Cunningham with Adventure and Romance. So she is a fiction author. We just put out Ashley Fontaine and Andrea M's full podcast on all podcast sites, and their book Eternal Beauty is a psychological and paranormal thriller. We are interested in finding authors of Christmas or winter themes for our December interviews. We have a few lined up. And if you happen to write medieval fiction and are willing to travel to Knoxville, we have a fantastic location to film your interview. So if that is anyone out there, contact me, booksandbrewslive@gmail.com. Thank you for being on the program. Cheers.